bar. The torsion bar will then twist along its axis, to provide coil spring-like performance. Air spring is used in place of conventional coil springs. Air springs contain a column of air in an elastomeric bellow, or sleeve, and use the compressive abilities of air, to absorb vibrations and shocks. Springs are energy storage units. They are good at absorbing, but not dissipating the energy. A smooth ride requires both springs and the dampers. A spring help absorbs the energy off bumps on the road, and a dampening mechanism helps control and dissipate the energy up and down. Shock absorber is a device that helps to control the unwanted spring motion, through a process called dampening. For the shock absorber, one end is connected to the body or frame, and the other is connected to the axle or control arm. There are different types of shock absorbers, but they all use a piston sliding in a cylinder filled with hydraulic oil. The kinetic energy of suspension movement transforms into heat energy, that can be dissipated through hydraulic fluid. The suspension strut is basically a shock absorber mounted inside a coil spring. The bottom of the strut is attached to the steering knuckle, and the top of the strut is connected to the car body, via an upper strut mount. Anti-sway bar is also called an anti-roll bar. Anti-sway bars are metal rods which span the entire axle, and work to join the opposing suspension systems on the same axle. Anti-sway bars combine with shock absorbers, or suspension struts, provide the car with additional stability. When there is motion in one side of the wheel, this motion will be transferred by the anti-sway bar to the other wheel, to create a more level ride. Before we look at how suspensions provide control, and the different types of suspension, we firstly need to study the wheel alignment, and how it would help a car suspension system. Wheel alignment is basically to measure and adjust several complex suspension angles, including camber, caster, and toe angle. What is camber? Camber is a measure of the tire's centerline relative to the road surface. It is measured in degrees, and has a great influence on the driving dynamics of the car. Negative camber, the top of the tire tucks inwards. Positive camber, the base of the tire tucks inwards. Positive camber combined with steering axis inclination could be adopted to reduce steering effort, and minimize tire wear. What is steering axis inclination? The steering axis inclination is the angle between the centerline of the steering axis, and the vertical line from the tire contact surface, in a front view. The distance between the steering axis and the center of the contact patch, is the scrub radius. By combining the steering axis inclination and positive camber, the tire has a smaller scrub radius, thus has less steering effort and tire wear. Negative camber improves handling by keeping better contact of the tire with road while the car rolls. As the car rolls, it puts most of the weight on the outer tire, therefore it's better to have negative camber on the outer tire to ensure the tire's contact patch is evenly loaded. What is caster? Caster is the angular displacement of the steering axis from the vertical axis of the wheel, viewed from the side. Positive caster is when the wheel is in front of the upper pivot point. Negative caster does the opposite. Modern vehicles use positive caster, which generates an aligned torque to help straighten the steering wheel when the car goes forward. What is toe? Toe is the direction the tires are pointed, relative to the vehicle centerline, viewed from above. Toe in, tires point inward, the angle is positive. Toe out, tires point outward, the angle is negative. Toe in is typically applied in a rear-wheel drive car. A rear-wheel drive car pushes the front tires. This causes the tires to push back with respect to the suspension. Therefore, rear-wheel drive vehicles use toe-in adjustments to compensate for this movement. A front-wheel drive car does the opposite. The front tire pulls the car. The weight of the car body resists forward movement. This pulls the front wheels forward with respect to the suspension. Therefore, front-wheel drive vehicles use toe-out adjustments to compensate for movement. For more information on the camber, caster and toe, please see our video on wheel alignment, on the right corner. The four wheels of the car work together in two independent systems, the front suspension, and the rear suspension. A car can have different types of suspension on the front and rear. If the wheels are allowed to move independent of each other, It is an independent suspension. If the two wheels are connected by a rigid axle, it is called a dependent suspension, such as a solid axle leaf spring suspension. Here we'll look at some common types of front and rear suspensions.
Anybody who is interested in raising up his car, you need to understand the mechanics of what transpires around the setup of this car. For example, the suspensions are normally located here and around here. They are connected with the chassis, so there's a way you need to understand how it combines, and what we call wheel balancing and alignment. Those are very two important factors in ensuring that you have a good riding comfort, especially when you're planning your car for off-road. So the next live session I'll give you more details, and in case of any questions, you can ask me any questions concerning wheel alignment, wheel balancing, and hopefully I'll be able to give you information on how this vehicle can be raised. You can see how beautiful it looks. Nice suspensions from here up to here. It's about 32 inches, but for one OEM, by OEM I mean an ordinary vehicle that was brought, it was about 29 inches, so you have about 3 to 4 inches lift on your vehicle. So having said that, for today's session I'm gonna close now, but in the next session we shall discuss more about suspensions. Thanks and ciao.